Hey there, everyone, and welcome to our Connect Group Studies for Abundant Life Church. I really hope that you've been enjoying the studies so far. I really have been loving getting to know my Connect Group. The way that we're able to care for each other, engage with each other, pray for each other is something so special. And I really hope that you're having the same experience in your groups. I'm hearing that that's actually the case. I imagine that now is a really good time for us to start thinking about who else we can be inviting into these spaces. And hey to everyone who is either new or joining us for the very first time tonight. These Connect groups are designed to do three things. One, we want to grow a little bit in our spiritual understanding of who Jesus is and who Jesus is for me. But even more importantly than that, we want to provide a space that you can care for each other, pray for each other, and then set up ways of connecting with each other through the rest of the week. I'll talk about a little bit more of that again at the end, but we also want to be able to say that this is a place of belonging, and it's not negated by what you believe. So we say you don't need to believe in order to belong, but the way we develop our belief is so important, because where our belief goes, our behaviors follow. So the way we believe that we are people who are good and carry nobility and walk in truth, that actually is reflected in our behaviors. If we believe that we're hopeless and stupid and no good, that often is also sadly reflected in our behaviors. So tonight's actually about belief development, but you don't have to think the same as me or people in the group. It's a safe place to wrestle with God, to ask questions. Our doubts are welcome here. We do messy, we do complicated, we do deep, and we're really excited about what tonight is going to hold. This is our Easter study. So coming up on the 10th and then on the 12th of April is Good Friday and Easter Sunday, and we'd love to invite you along to that. There's a few thoughts in and around Easter that we'd actually love to be able to have together. Tonight we want to open up a passage, Luke 23, 33 to 35, and there'll be some questions and there'll be some thoughts on some sheets that your Connect hosts have given you. You may want to take them deep, you may want to skim across them. It's depending on how you and your individual groups are needing to roll tonight as to how you actually engage with those. There's a couple of things that we like to be able to set up, and one is there are universal questions that these scriptures and these studies will draw upon. Where do I come from? What is the basis of my life? And indeed, where am I going to? These are universal questions. The other universal question is, what is in the middle? What's my purpose and what's my meaning? And we can also parallel them in with some other questions, which is saying you've got your own story, and everyone in the room tonight has got a slightly different story. God himself has been writing a story. It's a love letter to you in the Bible, and that also tells its story. Part of what you'll read tonight is just a snippet of that story. And then there's also the next chapters in that story, which I believe are incredibly exciting. I believe they're incredibly powerful. And tonight I think that you are here for a reason. I know that you are here for a reason, and that is that the next chapters of your life are going to be the best chapters that have ever been written, and that will blow your mind if you could actually see them in advance. So we're just believing for that for you tonight. As I've said, there's three thoughts, there's three questions, or actually a series of questions. Probably the most important ones are the application questions, and I'd encourage you to linger in those a little bit. But tonight I want to open up, I guess, what would be two fairly Christian words in and around the Easter time, and that is one, justification, and then sanctification. I have noted there that the true horror of the cross is its impact. It shows its true impact and the true price tag of sin, of what it actually required to pay the wages of those sin, lust and rebellion and anger and greed and selfishness, and however that gets played out. Though there are root issues of sin, and it's all about self. The wages of sin, the wages of that sin is death, and we saw that the way that was paid for was Jesus on the cross. It's the true horror of the cross. The true beauty of the cross, though, shows the absolute value that Father has placed upon you and the lengths that Jesus would go to in order to actually show you your value. So the cross actually had two things. It actually paid sin's debt. This is called justification. And actually, it means that in faith, not through works, not through attending church or attending a connect group, but a personal faith that said, I believe Jesus, the Son of God, died on the cross for my own sin. And that in dying for that sin, he paid for my sin and the rest of the world's sin, not just once and then having to do it over and over and over again, but all sin for all mankind for all time. That I can stand before him in that faith, justified. It says, just as if I had never sinned. This is the true gift of the cross. This is the true gift of Easter, that we are made right through faith. We are righteous and we have a right standing with Jesus through faith. Isn't that absolutely remarkable? It's actually what separates Christianity from so many other religions that are extolling and exhorting its followers to do, and yet we get to receive, and stand before the King of Kings, justified. This is the work of justification that was finished at the cross. I would love to encourage you tonight, if you find your way into Romans 5 verses 1 and 3, crazy verses. 2 Corinthians 5 is also an embodiment that God is no longer angry. It's the message of reconciliation to the world, and I'd encourage you to read that. But justification is done. It is finished, and I love that. But there's an ongoing work, and that the cross leads us into sanctification. And I know that these are two big Christianese words, but they are so important. I don't want to water them down. So justification, just as if I'd never sinned, as if it had never happened. Oh my gosh. And then sanctification, which is the ongoing process of being set apart, the ongoing process of areas of our thinking, areas of our heart, areas of our habits and the way we respond and the way that we do things is continually being made holy. This is the process of sanctification, and this was made possible because of the cross. Previous to this, it was all about having to sacrifice bulls or lambs or doves and do a whole bunch of religious ritual. Now it is faith that leads us to grace. This grace sets us apart. This grace empowers us to overcome sin. This grace empowers us to become that holy and royal priesthood, this beautiful holy nation that Jesus calls us, not just to become, but he's actually calling us to live in the reality of that right now. Look, we kind of like justification a little more than sanctification more than we like justification, because sanctification means I need to be daily involved in it. And the problem with that is we tend to then move that into works. If I do these things and I'm sanctified, I'm sanctified. Sanctification is not what you are doing, it is the product. It is the overflow. It is the aroma of having been justified and then standing and living, abiding and resting with Jesus on a daily basis. Sanctification flows from us in that overflowing sense. It's beautiful, right? So as Easter comes around, we just love to encourage you to rethink that you have been justified, and that was the finished work of the cross, and is leading us into that daily devotional life, that daily time of hanging out with Jesus. Hopefully it's not just 5 minutes here or even an hour there. It's an ongoing, moment by moment conversation that he longs and loves to lead us into. I'd just like to remind us again, as it says in Zechariah 4:6, you can't do this on your own, friends. It's not a matter of just trying and striving, and if I'm just good for a little bit longer. It says, not by might and not by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord. He is with you. He is for you. And he is so in love with you. What he wants us to do is approach him in faith and receive that grace that is the empowerment to live the life that he wants for you and the life that he wants for you and I know it's the life that we want for ourselves and for each other. We've got a series of application questions in there that I'd love to get you to and really reflect on those together. So the other thoughts, the other questions, they're great. I hope you get something out of them. Drill down or move on, whatever you need to do. But the application questions is really where it's all at. How do we apply what we're learning? How do we apply what we're starting to understand at new levels? How does that change our day-to-day engagements with each other, our approaches to His throne, and even the way we deal with our own shortcomings and mistakes? Those application questions are so important. Go for that. So what now? We'd love to give you an opportunity to pray together. If you're not a person who likes praying in public, that's cool, man. Just have some mercy on yourself. No one's forcing you to pray, and Jesus doesn't think any less of you if you don't want to pray in a group setting or you're just not there tonight. Peace to you. But people want to be able to pray. We would like to be able to share our stories and our journeys with each other, and then we would really encourage you to stay connected and make some time for each other. Now, we actually don't have a Connect study for our next Connect gathering. We're going to encourage you, go out for Thai somewhere, go 10-pin bowling, get together and eat or play Monopoly or whatever you want to do. Just love on one another and be with one another and enjoy each other's company, because that's going to be so valuable for the next journey, next stage. And who else can you invite into that space?